Is it now Corporate Gatlinburg, or are the locals still in the game? Let's take a look and learn more. Welcome to Bear Facts, where we explore the Smoky Mountains one bear fact at a time. Gatlinburg can be a little overwhelming the first time you visit, because even though the mountain town is way smaller than Pigeon Forge, they pack a lot in that little place. Most people see Gatlinburg from 441 for the first time. This route is the most common for almost any visitor, since there are actually only like 3 ways to get into Gatlinburg. Hence the traffic. But we'll get to that in a minute. Many tourists are coming to Gatlinburg to enjoy the serenity and peace of the mountains. So for some, the first time they lay eyes on this quaint mountainside town, it's a bit of a shock, because there is nothing peaceful or even quiet about this town anymore. Our first time coming to Gatlinburg was no different. We drove in from Pigeon Forge by 441. Though Google Maps likes to call it the Parkway, sometimes it's called Newfound Gap Road, and other times it's just called the Tourist Trap from Hell. Oh, those are the locals. Sorry, let's just keep calling it the Parkway. Nowadays, the first thing that welcomes most people to Gatlinburg are the lines and lines of cars and traffic, congested walkways, and honking cars. If it wasn't for the Welcome to Gatlinburg sign above our car as we sat at the same red light for almost 15 minutes, I would have sworn we were in New York City, because entering the bottleneck that Gatlinburg is to the Smoky Mountain Park can look just like that. Gatlinburg is truly an amazing town. We really enjoy going there, but it has changed dramatically in the last few years and isn't what it used to be. There are a few reasons for this, one being that it's the gateway to the Smoky Mountains, and the second, with a rising cost of travel, it's more affordable to go to places like this with families. Well, in theory, anyway. Vacationing in Gatlinburg is more than a third of the price to go to Disney or travel overseas, but it can still get expensive. You can say that the evolution of small-town Gatlinburg to metropolis Gatlinburg happened in different stages. The first stage was when they changed their name. That's right, Gatlinburg had a name change. It was actually originally called White Oak Flats, named after the bountiful quantity of oak in the area. But why the name change really stuck was a bit of a mystery. It was also probably the true beginning of the town's long battle with local business values. It's almost ironic that the town picked up their name from Redford Gatlin. Gatlin was a person who seemed to have a lot of money. After buying property in the area, he opened a general store and established the first post office through his store. He was also a preacher who was deeply disliked by the other residents, and he was actually eventually kicked out. And even though the preacher and his wife were kicked out, the name and the general store stuck. How's that for a story, right? And very fitting, since the town is still a battleground, trying to keep their identity while embracing new business. But I said that Gatlinburg's change could be seen in stages. The next stage was the introduction to the national park. Once the Smoky Mountains was established, Gatlinburg was put on the map. This was when Ripley showed interest and many other businesses started moving in. The late 70s and 80s saw more changes and people started flooding in. I feel that the fire in 2016 also had a little impact on the changes, because after the fire destroyed so much of the park and devastated the mountainside, large cabins and massive rentals started popping up along the mountainside in Gatlinburg. Were people selling their property to get away? Who knows? I can only guess that that was what happened. But I feel that one of the biggest changes, or a catalyst to faster change, was COVID. Don't get me wrong, corporate America was already well on its way to trying to take over the town by 2020, but it was COVID that moved the volume of tourists to a whole new level. Not only were people seeking a vacation in more isolated locations during that time, but Tennessee remained open and mask restrictions were far more lenient here. And it seemed that the level of tourists haven't started to drop either since the COVID spike. The tanking economy, fear of big cities, those are all factors that have helped Gatlinburg tourism grow and change. But is this a sign of permanent change? I guess time will only tell. And Gatlinburg is still advertising themselves as a small mountain resort with plenty of fun family activities and entertainment close by. And it's true, Gatlinburg is a small mountain town, and it's actually very small. And there are a lot of great family-friendly things to do and see here. But quaint? Not so much. So it makes sense that many people are coming to Gatlinburg thinking they would be able to enjoy a quaint, small, mountain town American experience. And though the American flags can be seen on every corner, Gatlinburg has become a tourist destination for people of different nationalities. During the peak tourist time, Gatlinburg is humming with as many different languages spoken as in New York City. If you arrive at night, Gatlinburg looks more like the Las Vegas Strip than a town of less than 5,000 residents. All around are bright signs, big displays, and all the things that grab your attention. The only thing missing are the ringing of slot machines and Cirque du Soleil signs advertised around you, though the Bears do put on a good show. Gatlinburg draws in big businesses, large hotel chains, and plenty of shops and restaurants, with the crowds of tourists and people who seem pretty happy with the changes. When you drive down the parkway, it's very clear that this is not a cute little town anymore. It doesn't help that almost all the businesses are stacked along the 441 Parkway, that it looks so commercialized, big. Most of the businesses are all stacked together like Monopoly game pieces in a very one-sided game where you're losing. From the outside, it looks like the Monopoly game is almost over and Ripley owns it all. But don't worry, they only seem to own everything. There are quite a lot of small business owners that still have a stake in the game. And if you look closer, a lot of the land is still actually owned and leased by some of the early or even founding families of the area, so not as all lost to corporate America. Either way, almost all of the land along this very short 2-mile stretch of roadway between Gatlinburg and the entrance to the park is competing for the tourist dime. The neon lights, traffic of cars and people, restaurants and shops keep going until you reach the park, where all business, traffic, and lights cut off abruptly. Because the Smoky Mountain National Park starts where Gatlinburg ends. Yay for the park! Though, if it wasn't for the park, those businesses wouldn't be there anyway, so not sure what else to say about that. But if you're getting a little discouraged and now want to book a trip to Alaska to escape Ripley's, not all is lost. Because, like I've already pointed out, not all of the businesses are franchises or owned by big companies. There is a precarious balance of both big and small in this town. Even though you can get a Starbucks mocha on one side of the strip parkway, right across the street are the other mom and pop places that also sell coffee. So not all is lost, and there are a lot of examples of this if you look around. The restaurants are all still in play for who wins the local versus corporate battle over Gatlinburg. Bubba Gumps is standing loud and proud right below the Space Needle. Across the street, you see Five Guys, Dick's Last Resort, Shoney's, Cece's Pizza, Mellow Mushroom, and Ben & Jerry's. All franchises or corporate enterprises. But there are actually just as many, if not more, small business-owned places right next to them. All you have to do is just look around and you'll see them. Gatlinburg Pizzeria, Howard's Restaurant, The Park Grill, Crockett's Pancake House, and the Pancake Pantry are just to name a few. There's also a fierce battle being fought over the best attractions to see and experience in Gatlinburg. There is no doubt that Ripley has a major foothold in this area with the massive aquarium, their Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, mountain coasters, and miniature golf courses taking up a lot of real estate. They don't own it all. But don't count out the little guys yet. there are still some big attractions that are privately owned in Gatlinburg. In fact, one of the most iconic structures in Gatlinburg is still family owned, the Space Needle. Uber Gatlinburg is also still in the game, even though they were recently purchased by a small group of local investors. They're still part of the community, so they keep their local status. And though the big corporations seem to be winning the battle for big attractions, you could still see that the local community is holding on to their lands and fighting to keep some of Gatlinburg out of the corporate hands. Just take in the Salt and Pepper Shaker Museum. Those guys sure do know how to keep things shaken. Okay, well, I thought that was funny. It does seem that for every big business-owned property, there's a smaller, privately owned one. Ripley's Haunted Mansion is a good example. Right across the way on River Road is another Haunted Mansion attraction. This one is privately owned, and many more people argue it's better. When it comes to the battle of corporate versus private, there's one area that locals seem to be winning, and that's with shopping. Other than a few small chain stores and souvenir places, many of the local shops and stores appear to be owned by small businesses. The Village is an excellent example of this. The land is owned and the businesses are leased to mostly local entrepreneurs. The Mountain Mall across the street is likewise operated. Still owned by the Ogle family, a founding family in the Smoky Mountains, they maintain their ownership of the land and are trying to keep things local. Many small business owners and private businesses can be seen at both places. And if you go a little bit farther out towards the edge of Gatlinburg is the crafting community, also very, very locally owned and operated. Gatlinburg is one of the few true tourist towns where the battle between corporate and local is still up in the air. Either could still win. Even the hotels and lodges are up for grabs. Sure, there is a Margaritaville, DoubleTrees, and Quality Inns, but there are many Airbnbs and small hotels and lodges that are privately owned, which is extremely rare in this day and age. Hotels are just too big of an investment for small business owners. With the sheer volume of tourism to the area, they are still found here. But while there is still a battle waging over the attractions and businesses, there is one thing that no one seems to want to fight about, because between the mountains and Gatlinburg, no one would win, and that's the water. Gatlinburg has held strong to the value of their natural resources because you will not find a single business built on or over a natural running water source. Each and every business, no matter how big or powerful they are, had to follow the same laws. You are not allowed to change, alter, or divert any of the creeks, rivers, or waterways in the town. The town holds these waterways in almost reverence. Also, it's just plain stupid to change the very thing that brings in tourists. Most people are coming to Gatlinburg to enjoy the crystal clear waters and admire the majestic mountains, not look at concrete cauldrons or metal pipes with green moss dripping out of the ends. One of the first times we drove through the town, we saw people walking around with fishing poles and fish. Yeah, you heard me right. People were actually walking around a major bustling city area with fishing poles and fish. It's really strange to see for the first time. I mean, where are people getting the fish from? Well, right before you get into the city proper is the Gatlinburg Fish Hatchery. Gatlinburg is a fisherman paradise. Well, if you like to fish for trout, that is. The hatchery releases fish every Thursday in the Gatlinburg area. If you want to fish here, just get a permit and you can fish in Gatlinburg any day of the week, except Thursdays. That's a no fishing day. No. You can even keep the fish during the open season, though make sure you look at the rules and regulations before you fish here. Gatlinburg also made sure that the waters are accessible for people to see and enjoy. Along River Road, which parallels the parkway, there are long walkways that have stairs that lead down to the water, and people take advantage of the access all the time. Some to fish and some just to walk by and enjoy the crystal clear mountain waters. So who is winning? Is corporate America winning, or does small town America still have skin in the game? When you first enter the city, it sure does look like corporations have won, and Gatlinburg is just another overpriced tourist town. But if you look closely, all around Gatlinburg are signs the town is fighting hard to keep its identity. This is a southern town with deep southern values and roots, where people believe that it's okay to still say Merry Christmas. There is a church on every corner, and the flag is at half staff to respect the soldiers and the lives this country has lost to keep those rights. Gatlinburg is only 5,000 residents, but the people who own and are working at these places are determined to keep a part of Gatlinburg a true, small, quaint mountain town. But maybe also allow for some genuine entrepreneurship to stay alive, which is part of the American dream, isn't it? I hope this video helps you learn more about the Smoky Mountains or helps you plan for your own next trip. You're getting an honest review from our personal experiences, but facts and things change, so please keep us in the loop if you learn anything new and want to share your experiences in the comments. Thanks again for visiting us at Bear Facts of the Smoky Mountains. Please click that like button and subscribe to our channel.